In 2023, Charlie Munger died at the age of 99. He left behind a net worth of over $2 billion. But the people who knew him best said that wasn't the most impressive thing about him. The most impressive thing was his decision rate. In 60 years of investing alongside Warren Buffett, Munger made perhaps 20 significant investment decisions. 20, not 200, not 2,000, 20. And those 20 decisions produced one of the most extraordinary wealth-building records in financial history. Most people assume that level of success requires making more decisions. Better decisions, faster decisions. Munger believed the opposite. He believed that the quality of a life, financial, professional, personal, is determined by a very small number of decisions made with extreme clarity, and that most people destroy their chances not by making wrong decisions, but by making too many decisions in areas where their judgment was never reliable in the first place. He spent decades writing down exactly how this happens. The psychological traps, the cognitive patterns, the invisible forces that cause intelligent, educated, ambitious people to make increasingly sophisticated mistakes. He called it the psychology of human misjudgment, and what he found will make you look at every major decision you've made in the last 5 years differently. Some of what you're about to hear will be uncomfortable, because it's not about other people. It's about how you think, right now, today. Act 1. The real problem. Why intelligent people make the most expensive mistakes. Let's begin with a story most people have never heard. In 1994, a group of men created an investment fund that would become one of the most celebrated financial operations of the 20th century. Its founders included 2 Nobel Prize winners in economics, men who had literally written the academic models that Wall Street ran on. Former Federal Reserve Vice Chairman, PhDs from Harvard, MIT, and Stanford. The firm was called Long-Term Capital Management. Within 4 years, it had collapsed so completely that the Federal Reserve had to organize an emergency intervention to prevent a global financial crisis. 2 Nobel Prize winners, 1 catastrophic blind spot. What went wrong? Not ignorance, not incompetence, certainty. They were so confident in their models they had built, tested, and published, that they couldn't see what the models couldn't measure. They mistook intellectual sophistication for reality. And in September 1998, reality disagreed. Munger spent decades studying stories like this one, not because they were unusual, because they weren't. The pattern repeated everywhere he looked. Highly educated executives destroying billion-dollar companies. Brilliant investors chasing bubbles they understood intellectually, but couldn't resist emotionally. Talented entrepreneurs expanding exactly when they should have been consolidating. The common explanation was always bad luck. Munger believed something different. He believed the real problem was psychological. Most people assume better decisions come from knowing more. Munger believed better decisions come from seeing reality more clearly. Those are not the same thing, because knowledge can increase confidence, but confidence can decrease objectivity. And once confidence exceeds reality, mistakes become inevitable. Think about the last major mistake you made. You probably didn't think, this is a terrible decision. You thought, this makes sense. Every costly mistake in history begins that way, which raises a genuinely dangerous question. What if some of your current beliefs feel completely correct, but aren't? Keep that question in mind. Because the first mental model Charlie Munger spent his life refining attacks that problem directly. Mental Model 1. Inversion. Charlie Munger once gave a commencement speech at Harvard. The audience expected wisdom about how to build a successful life. Instead, Munger walked to the podium and said, "All I want to know is where I'm going to die, so I'll never go there." The audience laughed. Munger didn't. He meant it literally. And that single sentence contains more practical intelligence about building wealth than most business school curricula combined. Most people ask, how do I succeed? Munger asked, how do people fail? The difference sounds small. It isn't. Imagine someone wants to build wealth. Most people focus immediately on wealth-building strategies, investments, business, income streams, side projects.
Munger would first ask, how do people destroy wealth? Excessive debt, lifestyle inflation that expands faster than income, bad partnerships entered too quickly, emotional decisions made during market fear, lack of patience, destroying compounding. Now avoid those. Suddenly, success becomes dramatically more likely. Not because you found a better strategy, because you removed the forces that were working against every strategy you'd ever try. This is inversion, and it applies everywhere. What destroys careers? What destroys businesses? What destroys partnerships? What destroys health? Most people are searching for complicated answers. Munger repeatedly found obvious mistakes, because avoiding stupidity is frequently easier than pursuing brilliance, and far more reliable.
This week, the avoid list. Not a goal list, an avoid list. What financial behaviors would almost guarantee failure over the next 5 years? What business habits would eventually create problems you'd regret? What decision patterns have already cost you twice? Write them down, then build every strategy around not doing those things first. Simple, extraordinarily powerful. But here's what Munger noticed. Even people who understood inversion, who actively tried to avoid failure, still made catastrophic mistakes. Why? Because they were avoiding the wrong failures. They were operating confidently in territory where their confidence had no real foundation, and they didn't know it. That gap between perceived competence and actual competence may be the most expensive real estate in business. Mental Model 2, Circle of Competence. During the dot-com bubble of the late 1990s, a dentist in Arizona liquidated his retirement savings. He had spent 20 years building his practice. He understood teeth. He understood patience. He understood the economics of a dental chair. He understood almost nothing about network effects, burn rates, total addressable markets, or what separated a viable internet company from one that was essentially a press release with a domain name. But the story was exciting. Everyone around him was doing it. The numbers kept going up, and excitement felt like understanding. His circle of competence was in a dental chair. His savings ended up in a market he couldn't read. He lost everything, not because he was unintelligent, because he crossed a boundary he couldn't see. Munger's circle of competence wasn't about what he found interesting. It wasn't even about what he knew. It was about what he understood, deeply enough to be reliably right when most other people were wrong. That is a significantly harder standard. You can be fascinated by artificial intelligence. That doesn't mean you understand AI businesses. You can love real estate. That doesn't mean you're qualified to evaluate development projects. You can follow financial news every day. That doesn't mean you understand markets. Munger's competitive edge wasn't knowing everything. It was knowing precisely what he didn't know. And most people dramatically underestimate how valuable that skill is. This week, the 3 circles. Draw 3 circles. Inside the first, what you understand, deeply enough to make reliable decisions. Inside the second, what you understand moderately, where you can follow others but shouldn't lead. Inside the third, what you know almost nothing about, regardless of how interested you are in it. Now compare that map to where you're currently making important decisions. The gaps will surprise you. Those gaps are where the most expensive mistakes live. So now you know what to avoid. You know where your judgment is actually reliable. You've built a more honest map of your own competence. And yet, Munger watched people do all of this correctly and still fail to build meaningful wealth. Something else was working against them. Something that had nothing to do with intelligence, humility, or self-awareness. It had to do with time. And most people's relationship with time is fundamentally broken. Mental Model 3. Compounding. Warren Buffett is worth over $100 billion. Here is what almost no one talks about. 97% of that wealth was accumulated after his 50th birthday. He started investing at 11 years old. He was already wealthy by most definitions at 30. But the compounding hadn't finished working yet. No dramatic pivots, no viral moments, no reinventions, no shortcuts. Just the same rational process, applied consistently across 7 decades. People look at Buffett's wealth and see genius. What they're actually seeing is time. Now apply the same logic to behavior, not just money. The professional who spends 40 minutes each morning reviewing the previous day's decisions doesn't feel like they're doing anything significant until year 7. The entrepreneur who ships something imperfect every week instead of perfecting something indefinitely doesn't look disciplined from the outside until year 4. The person who declines the upgraded apartment and directs the difference toward assets doesn't seem impressive at dinner parties until year 10. This is the fundamental cruelty of compounding. It is invisible for an uncomfortably long time, and human psychology craves visible signals. Progress you can show someone, proof that the discipline was worth it. Compounding doesn't offer proof early. It offers nothing for a long time, and then it offers everything at once. This creates the most dangerous illusion in wealth building. From the outside, success looks sudden. People see a business worth something significant in year 8 and assume the founder got lucky. They don't see years 2 through 7, the decisions that didn't get made, the expenses that didn't get spent, the lifestyle that didn't get inflated, the systems that got quietly improved every month. By the time compounding becomes visible, it looks like an event. It was never an event. It was years of consistent, unremarkable behavior, executed by someone who understood one thing deeply. The reward wasn't coming soon, and they made peace with that. But there's something nobody tells you about compounding. The primary threat to it isn't a bad investment. It isn't a market crash. It isn't bad luck. It's impatience dressed as strategy. The rebranding, the pivot, the new opportunity that appeared at exactly the right moment. The tactical shift that felt completely rational. Each one resets the clock. Each one makes perfect sense in the moment. Each one is the single most expensive decision the person will make that year. This week, the 12-month commitment. Identify one area where consistency matters more than intensity. Business, investing, content creation, a skill, health. Commit to 12 months, not 12 days, not 12 weeks. Measure progress quarterly, not daily. Patience has become a competitive advantage. Treat it like one. But even when people understand compounding, even when they commit to patience, they still sabotage themselves. Munger watched it happen repeatedly. People with the right framework, the right intention, the right knowledge, still making predictable, avoidable, expensive mistakes. And he eventually understood. Why? Because another force is often stronger than logic, stronger than discipline, stronger than intention, incentives.
Mental Model 4. Incentives. Charlie Munger said it more directly than almost anyone. Show me the incentive and I'll show you the outcome. Not sometimes, almost always. Most people, when they look at corporate scandals, see moral failure. Munger saw something more disturbing. He saw people behaving in almost perfect alignment with their incentive structures. The financial advisor recommending products that pay the highest commission. The executive approving short-term decisions that boost the quarterly report he'll be evaluated on. The consultant recommending complexity because simplicity doesn't justify the fee. None of these people necessarily woke up intending to cause harm. Their environment trained them toward a specific behavior, and they followed the training. Here's what Munger would want you to sit with. You are not different. A professional in a high-status firm is rewarded for appearing busy, projecting confidence, and billing hours, not for sitting quietly and changing their mind. An entrepreneur surrounded by other entrepreneurs is rewarded for growth stories, funding announcements, and expansion, not for consolidation, patience, and saying no. A manager in a large organization is rewarded for visible activity and team growth, not for doing fewer things better. Your environment has been training you. The question is whether it's been training you toward what you actually want, or toward what the people around you want from you. Those two things are rarely identical, and the gap between them is often where years disappear. This week, the incentive audit. Don't ask, what do I want? Ask, What does my current environment reward? What does it punish? What behavior does it quietly encourage every day without ever saying so explicitly? If your goals and your incentive structure are misaligned, your goals will lose. Every time. Design environments that make the right behavior the path of least resistance, not the exception. There's a question Munger returned to repeatedly throughout his career. He'd studied inversion. He understood circle of competence. He'd applied compounding across decades. He'd analyzed incentive structures in detail, and still, he watched brilliant people make the same mistakes, decade after decade, market cycle after market cycle, generation after generation. The same patterns, the same traps, the same confident errors. Why? If people could see these patterns in others, why couldn't they see them in themselves? Munger spent years trying to answer that question, and what he found was simultaneously the most important and the most unsettling insight of his career. He called it the Lollapalooza effect, and it explains almost every major financial disaster in human history. Mental Model 5. The Lollapalooza effect. Most people by now know that humans have cognitive biases. Confirmation bias. We seek evidence that confirms what we already believe. Social proof. We follow the crowd when we're uncertain. Loss aversion. We fear losses roughly twice as much as we value equivalent gains. Incentive bias. We see what we're rewarded to see. Understood individually, these seem manageable. Munger's breakthrough, the insight that separated his thinking from conventional behavioral economics, was recognizing something more dangerous. In real life, these forces don't arrive one at a time. They arrive together. And when multiple psychological forces align in the same direction at the same moment, human judgment doesn't just weaken, it collapses. Munger called this the Lollapalooza effect. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Look at every major financial bubble in modern history. The dot-com crash of 2000, the housing crisis of 2008, the crypto collapse of 2022. Different assets, different decades, different participants, same psychological structure. Confirmation bias told people the story made sense. Social proof told them everyone else was doing it. Incentive bias told them this was the rational choice. Scarcity and fear of missing out amplified everything to a fever pitch. And in that moment, the collective intelligence of millions of educated, experienced, rational people produced some of the most irrational decisions in economic history. That is the Lollapalooza effect. Not one bias, not two, all of them, simultaneously, pointed in the same direction. And here is what Munger understood that most people never fully accept. You are not immune. Nobody is immune. The protection isn't smarter analysis. It isn't more information. It isn't greater willpower. It's a system. Checklists, waiting periods, pre-committed rules that activate before emotions do. Because in the moment when all those forces converge, and they will converge repeatedly across your life, you will not feel like you're making an emotional decision. You will feel like you've finally figured it out. You will feel certainty. You will feel clarity. You will feel like the responsible thing to do is act immediately. That feeling of absolute clarity is often the most expensive state a human mind can occupy. Munger knew this. He built his entire decision architecture around protecting himself from it.
This week, the Lollapalooza check. Before any major decision, ask 3 questions. 1. How many of my biases are currently aligned in favor of this decision? 2. What evidence would prove I'm wrong? Have I actively looked for it? 3. Am I about to do something I've never done before while feeling unusually certain? That third question alone has saved more fortunes than most investment strategies.
The Munger decision system. Weekly practice. Most people consume ideas and feel temporarily smarter. Then Monday arrives. The same environment, the same pressures, the same incentives, and the ideas quietly disappear. Munger understood this, which is why he didn't just think differently. He built a structure that made it almost impossible to think the old way. Here is a compressed version of that structure. 6 questions, 30 minutes, every week. Not because it's convenient, because decision quality compounds, and compounding requires repetition. Every Sunday, 6 questions. Step 1, review. What was the biggest decision from the previous week? What actually happened? What did reality tell you that your assumptions didn't? Step 2, inversion. What mistake am I most likely to make next week? What would almost guarantee a bad outcome? How do I design my week to make that mistake harder to make? Step 3, circle check. Am I about to make a decision in an area I genuinely understand deeply? Or am I operating on enthusiasm again? Step 4, compounding lens. What single small action, repeated for 12 months without interruption, would create the most meaningful result in my work or financial life? Step 5, incentive audit. What is my environment rewarding this week? Is that aligned with what I'm actually trying to build? Step 6, Lollapalooza. Check. What am I feeling unusually certain about right now? What evidence would prove that certainty wrong? Have I genuinely looked for it? 30 minutes, every week. Repeated across years, this single habit changes the trajectory of how you make decisions more than any strategy, tactic, or framework you will ever encounter.
Charlie Munger died with $2 billion, but the people who knew him best said money was never really the point. The point was clarity. He wanted to see the world as it actually was, not as he hoped it would be, not as he feared it might be, not as the people around him believed it to be, as it actually was. That sounds simple. It is one of the most difficult things a human being can attempt, because the mind is not designed for clarity. It's designed for survival, for speed, for social approval, for the comfort of existing beliefs. Clarity requires fighting against all of that, deliberately, repeatedly, with systems, not willpower. Because willpower runs out, systems don't. Here is the question worth sitting with tonight. Not, what would Munger do? But, in the last 6 months, how many of your important decisions were actually decisions? Or were they reactions? Reactions to pressure, reactions to what your environment rewarded, reactions to what the people around you expected, reactions to biases you couldn't see because they all felt like logic. Because a reaction is not a decision, and most people spend their entire professional lives reacting, calling it judgment, calling it experience, calling it strategy. The people who build something real, something that survives a single market cycle, a single crisis, a single moment of pressure, they're not necessarily more intelligent than you. They're not more educated. They don't have access to information you don't have. They've simply learned to slow down long enough to ask, is this actually me deciding? Or is this something deciding for me? That question, asked consistently over years, produces a fundamentally different life. Not a perfect one, a deliberate one, and in a world moving faster than it has ever moved, where decisions arrive faster, incentives are more sophisticated, and psychological manipulation has been industrialized at scale. Deliberate may be the most valuable thing a person can become. Munger knew that at 30. He knew it at 99. The question is when you'll decide to know it too.